Welcome back to mathematics class. So click the subscribe button, share, like and comment on this video. Now in this lesson you'll be learning Pythagoras theorem. Have you heard that before? So who is Pythagoras? Pythagoras was a mathematician who lived in the 6th century. He was known for his contributions to mathematics, especially Pythagorean theorem, which describes the relationship between the sides of a right-angled triangle. You can see that what I have here is a right-angled triangle. This is the first diagram and this is the second diagram. So your right-angled triangle can be drawn or shown in different forms. So let's learn more about Pythagoras theorem. Now, what are the parts of a right-angled triangle? Now, this is the longest side of the right-angled triangle, and that longest side of the right-angled triangle is called the hypotenuse. It is called the hypotenuse, and that longest side of the right-angled triangle is facing the right angle. This is the right angle, and right angle is equal to 90 degrees. So the side that faces the right angle is known as the hypotenuse. And the other shorter sides are called opposite, and the next one is called adjacent. So opposite is the shorter side, adjacent is also the shorter side. Now let's learn more about hypotenuse. The hypotenuse faces the right angle. Don't forget that wherever you see this sign, it is a right angle. It is the longest side of the triangle. So your right angle triangle can be shown to you in different forms. It can be turned upside down, it can face the left, it can face the right, it can also face up and face down. Now let's see what Pythagoras has for us. Pythagoras theorem states that the square of the length of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the length of the other two sides. This is the hypotenuse. The square of the length of the hypotenuse, which is side C. Now we have C squared because it says the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. Is equal to the sum. You know, sum means addition. So it's equal to the sum of the square of the other two sides. So that's equal to A squared plus B squared. So this is Pythagoras theorem. So in a situation whereby you have been given the two sides and you're left with the third side, especially the hypotenuse, to find the hypotenuse, you have to add up the square, the square of the two sides, that is square A plus the square B. Now, what if you've been asked to find one of the shorter side? It means you're going to subtract the other shorter side from the hypotenuse. Now, the C square represents the hypotenuse, or H. So we have the square of C minus the square of B. And if you are to find the square of B, which is the other shorter side, it will be the square of the hypotenuse minus the square of the other shorter side. So this is Pythagoras theorem. Make sure you take note of this in your exercise book. Let's see an example. Find the missing side in each triangle. Now this is the first triangle. We have the opposite, we have the adjacent. Don't forget that this is the opposite, this is the adjacent, and this is the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is represented with H. So if you're to find the length of the side, you use Pythagoras theorem. That is, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of the other sides. That is, the square of 9 plus the square of 12. So that would be the square of 9 plus the square of 12. It is as simple as that. Especially when you're finding the hypotenuse, add up the square of the two sides. Okay, so that will be equal to the square of 9 is 81 plus the square of 12 is 144. That is 12 times 12. So the square of hypotenuse is equal to, when you add this up together, it will give us 225. And don't forget that we need to find just H. So the square will be moved to the other side. It becomes square root, because square is the opposite of square root. So h is equal to square root of 225, and the square root of 225 is 15. That is 15 times 15. So 15 is the square root of 225. Now the next example says we should find this side. You can see that the right angle triangle has been turned the other way, and this still remains our hypotenuse. This is the opposite, and A is the adjacent. Now we have to find the adjacent. For you to be able to find the adjacent, you have a square. So you subtract the square of the shorter side from the square of the hypotenuse. So that will be the square of 10 minus the square of 8. So a square is equal to, the square of 10 is 100, the square of 8 is 64. That's 8 times 8. So a square is equal to 36. So square goes to the other side, it becomes square root. So a equals the square root of 36, and the square root of 36 is 6, because 6 times 6 is 36. Now one more example. Let's find the length of the missing side. So which side is missing? This remains the hypotenuse, this is the adjacent, the opposite side is missing. So that is O square equals, you're going to subtract the shorter side from the longer side. That is the square of 5 minus the square of 4. So that will give us 25 minus 16. And the square of the opposite side will be equal to 9. Square goes to the other side, it becomes square root. So the O equals square root of 9. And O equals 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. I hope you have enjoyed this class. Don't forget to click the subscribe button right now. Now, if you want more of this, more interesting mathematics class, make sure you tell your parents to enroll you for our weekly and daily math class. It's going to be a brain buster. I'll see you soon.